darker shade of magic. Our main character is Kel, and he's described as a magician with red hair, one black eye, and one blue eye. He has a magic coat, and he uses this symbol, which he draws with blood, by cutting his little palm and cuts it and puts it on the wall, in which he goes to different Londons. So there's 4 different Londons. One is gray, and it is said to have no magic. Boop. One is red, and it is said to be bumping with magic. One is white. It also has magic, but they're sitting next to black. Black London was lost and so cut off from the rest of the Londons because its magic consumed its world in darkness.
All worlds begin in darkness, and also end.
Kel is what's described as Antari. So he has this magic coat, which he can just change from, by shrugging it, from red to black. So he describes this bar in Grey London as one of the central points. So all 3 bars in all 3 Londons, grey, red, and white, are all in the same place, just named different. Kel is trying to trade this box. This box is a box that everyone has in Red London. It has all 5 elements: water, earth, that's turns into fire, it's a little oil, wind, and the 5th one is bone. And this is what's practiced in London to see if you're magical enough to control these elements. The 5th one, you can control people's bones. That's scary. So he goes there and he trades it for a little music box. When he traverses back to Red London, he looks at his arm and he's like, a memory wipe tattoo. He remembers being 5 years old and being in the castle, but he doesn't remember anything before that. So he works for the royals, but he's also like their son and brother. Then we meet Lila. She's a pickpocket who lives on a ship. This guy got handsy. I mean, way too handsy. And so she killed him and burned down the ship. In Red London, Kel's brother, Rye, and Holland, who is another Antari. Holland gives Rye a necklace. We then see Kel in White London, and he traverses to White London. He's like, King Athos. So King Athos and Queen Astrid Dane both control White London, and they're kind of insane. So Kel has a drink with him, and he delivers letters back and forth between the different Londons, telling each other's kings what the other kings are up to. As Kel's drunk and walking away, some guy stops and he's like, Lord Kel, please take this handkerchief. I need it, and this note, I need it delivered to someone across the way. So he's like, sure, I'll take it. So he traverses down, and he's like, this doesn't feel right. So he opens up the letter, and there's nothing in it. He opens up the handkerchief. There's a black stone, and he realizes that the handkerchief is actually a tracking device. He notices 2 cutthroats chasing after him. He also notices that they have magical blades that stab him. He's like, oh, God, I helped make that blade. So he's running with the black stone and puts it in his hand. He's like, stop! The black stone lets out this mist that actually stops one of the guys. It creeps into one of his faces. It creeps into his face and changes his eyes from blue to black. Kel then comes in contact with Lila, who steals the black stone out of his pocket, leaves him a handkerchief. He uses that handkerchief to follow after her and goes right through her wall. Whoop! Using magic. She's like, whoa, what the hell? And then he passes out. He wakes up and she has the black stone. And he's like, don't use that. It's bad magic. She's like, cool. So she uses the stone to create a sword. She's always wanted a sword. She's a pirate. And she creates a black hell, and that black hell is all having fun, stripping for her. And then it starts choking her out. And he's like, see, you need to dispel it. She's like, I don't know how to dispel it. I don't know anything about magic. And so she finally is able to dispel it. And he's like, this is evil magic. We have to get the stone away. So he grabs the stone and leaves. She's like, oh, this is kind of evil magic. So she throws the black sword out of the window. A guy named Booth finds the sword. The sword, when he picks it up, makes him stab himself, and then his eyes also turn black. Holland follows the scent of Kel's magic, and he works for the Danes for White London. So he follows and finds Lila, and he's like, scream for him. And she's like, ah! And he's sitting there, and he's like, oh, man, I know it's a trap, but I'm going to go back anyway. Back to get Lila to safety. He's like, Lila, run! So he has the black stone with him, and Holland needs that black stone. He's like, you can either control magic or magic controls you. So he starts shooting off nails at him. One of the nails gets inside of his arm, and he's like, all right, fine, I'll use the black stone. So he starts using the black stone, and his veins go crazy black. And he tries to stop Holland, but Holland's super strong. So Holland uses a Secum Sempra on him, and he starts bleeding profusely out of every orifice. And then Lila comes back and smashes him in the head. And then he's dying. So Lila takes him back up to the top of the stone throw, and he's like, we have to get rid of the black stone. It's evil. She's like, great, when are we going? He's like, you don't get it. In order to traverse to the world, we're in Grey London. We need to go through Red London, then into White, and finally into Black London. You will never make it. We have to go one by one. And she's like, I want to go with you. Okay. So he's like, maybe the stone will allow you to traverse through worlds, because only Antari can normally traverse through worlds. She just kisses him on the cheek. She's like, for luck. Oh. So he goes and traverses through the world with her, but she's no longer there. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. She actually pops up in Red London. It's in the middle of Rye's birthday. He's a vendor, and she's like, oh, cool, I want to try to grab it. She tries to steal it, but it electrifies her, and she's like, oh, shit, it's magic. And it stops her from stealing. He shows up and he's like, she's with me. Everyone's like, oh my God, a royal. So they go to his version of the Stone's Throw, where he keeps all of his things, his bar in Red London, where he needs a white token in order to traverse to the white world, because you need blood and a token. And they find that the whole place is destroyed. Holland shows up. And so we see Holland 5 minutes earlier, and he was at the Stone's Throw following their magic again, and he meets the bartender. He's like, where are they? And then he kills Baron, who's like kind of Lila's friend and kind of isn't. I don't know. So Holland shows up and he's like, I can feel your magic. So he asks the stone to conceal them. So he conceals both Lila and him. Holland then takes the dust and particles and tries to show them. So he throws it down, but it goes right through their bodies because they're incorporeal. So then him and Lila are like, okay, cool. Now we really have to get a white piece. I don't have one anymore. The only white token I know is this white rook. I gave it to Fletcher after I beat him in a game that he gave me this magical coat with. So they go into the pawn shop, in which Fletcher is the owner. They are incorporeal, so they go right through the wall. Fletcher shows up and he's like, hey, I just pressed this button, bro. The police are coming after you. So he tries to drop the black stone. It's super hard for him and his veins are super black. He finally drops it. Lila picks it up and she's like, conceal me. So she gets concealed. Guards show up and he's like, hey. And they're like, come with us. Even though he's royalty, he's like, sure, whatever. He goes. One of the guards comes over, kills Fletcher. She's invisible or incorporeal. And she grabs one of the swords that she always wanted. Kel shows up handcuffed and to Rye, and he's like, all right, very funny, let me out. And Rye's like, no, it was me all along. He's like, wait, Astrid? What are you doing? Astrid is possessing Rye with a necklace. He finally is able to get his handcuffs to chafe him a little bit and bleed so that he can use blood magic to get out. As he's getting out, Lila shows up and she's like, what up, dog? It's enough time to make Rye go crazy and throw the possession charm out the window as he stabs himself in the heart. Kel then takes him to one of his locations between locations. It's a little magic room that he had his instructor, Tinkin or TT or Tyrkin or something like that, and he uses the black stone in order to bind him and Rye's life together. Now they have a cool little mark on their chest together. And right as they're leaving, his master's like, Lila, you got it. Oh baby, you got it. They take the white rook and they traverse to White London. As they get there, Holland stops him. So they have this magic duel where he starts shooting off fiery wind at him and he stops it with stone. Just as he's thinking that he's winning, Kel sends a piece of stone right through the guy's shoulder into his brooch, which is what the Danes are using to control him. He starts dying, and he's like, ugh, it's hard to kill an Antari. So Kel goes to the White London castle, which is surrounded by dead people. He goes and he sees King Athos. He has half of the stone, and Kel has half of the stone. He's like, oh my God, there's two halves. The king's like, yeah, I'm going to use the stones, put them together, and make the worlds open again. No, you can't do that. Black London almost consumed us. He starts shooting lightning at him. Lila shows up in the background and goes to Queen Astrid, who is fallen asleep from a possession charm that she's still using. So she tries to shoot at her, but a barrier shows up and stops that. Athos sends a snake down to kill Kel. The snake ends up actually killing Athos, then comes after Kel. Kel slices it right through the stomach. Astrid kicks Lila in the face and passes her out, then starts transforming into Lila herself. Lila shows up, and she's like, Kel, please give me the stone. He's like, she would never say please. He then passes out from loss of blood, and he's in the darkness. He's completely surrounded by dark, and he hears like Kel and Rye, and the real Lila shows up, and she's like, don't, if you die, he'll die too. And then the stone starts talking to him. He's like, you kill me, you'll kill Rye. And so he's like, I'll do it. I know that I can put it together. So he comes out of the darkness and heals the stone by the magic words of healing. Puts the stone back together. He takes the stone, gives it to Holland, draws the symbol with his bloody hand, uses Holland's hand to go back to black, baby. He kisses Lila on the cheek, and she's now stuck in this world of Red London, and he's like, goodbye, Lila. She never turns around and goes to the ship. The end.